All right. Yes, indeed. It is once again time for another episode of the Kanika Sports Show, everybody. I am your host, Kenny, and I am joined once again on this Monday by the one, the only, Nika, the producer, everybody. Welcome to the show, Nika.
Hello, Kenny. Hello to our new and returning listeners all over this globe. Welcome to the Kanika Sports Show.
Well, yes, indeed. It is the last Monday of spring training, everybody. The regular season is just 3 days away.
Who's
And
counting?
are you ready? Are you ready for the season?
Of course. We've been waiting for, 4 months?
Well, yes. And it's been a long 5 weeks of spring training. And then, of course, we had the Tokyo series last week, and it's not enough. You know, I'm ready for the season now. And I'm ready for the teams to get out of spring training and injury harm's way. We've had way too many injuries this weekend that we're going to talk about later. But before we do anything, I got to take a special moment here this Monday. And we got a special birthday today to acknowledge. It is Papa's birthday today. My dad, one of the best baseball coaches a kid could ever ask for.
Aw.
Happy 69th birthday, Papa. And I hope you are celebrating back home in the Chicagoland area, perhaps with a cold one or something, as you like to do. But I thought it was important to wish you a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Papa.
Thank you, Paul McCartney. And it's not the only birthday we will be mentioning on this show, I should mention. Little teaser for the future. But boy, oh boy, summer is winding down and spring training is coming to an end. Position battles are ending and rosters are starting to take shape, as they say in the baseball world. And we are going to be talking about a lot of that on this episode. But I want to quickly acknowledge in this intro our San Diego Padres and one player that is definitely making the team, Jose Iglesias, everybody.
Oh my God, todo lo malo échalo para allá. Oh my God, dame salud y prosperidad.
That's right. I think we officially now get to have the song rights, right, Nika?
I think so.
All right. Well, that's a warning shot to all you Mets fans out there. You no longer are allowed to play or promote the team using OMG. It's now part of the brown and gold.
So, wait, are we going to be fighting it out with the Mets fans now?
Oh,
Who
no,
has the
that's the
rights?
Brewers' job. They fight with the Mets, remember?
Oh, I know, but about the song.
Oh, that was fun. You know, they actually opened the season in New York again this year, the Brewers. So are we going to get round 2 of Rock'em Sock'em Nukem Dukem?
Maybe. It will sure make it interesting TV.
It would, wouldn't it? Jose Iglesias, everybody. OMG will be on the Padres, and he will be joined by Martin Maldonado, everybody, as the backup catcher. Now, he did not have like a great spring, and he's not a career great hitter, but he is a really good defensive catcher, and that's what you want in a backup. So I don't think this was unexpected, and it's probably a better choice than Campusano at this point. And also, first baseman Yuli Gurriel is going to be on the team. The 40-year-old wonder, everybody. He has, he's been hitting the ball hard as of recent week in spring training, and I couldn't help but notice the sound of the ball coming off of his bat.
So it's a veteran presence at the beginning of the season.
It is, and we also have Gavin Sheets that will be on the team for sure. So there's going to be not a lot of spaces left for any other players. We'll have to see who else rounds out this roster. But those 4 players look to have earned a spot for sure. So we'll wait and see what happens, everybody. But I want to remind people that the Padres had Eguy Rosario on the roster last year. Tyler Wade is still around, but he was there. The roster that started the season last year for the Padres was not the roster that finished the season. In fact, Donovan Solano and David Peralta, 2 of the bigger veteran presences on the team, were not even on the roster at the start of last year. So things will change, and this is definitely not going to be the same team in September, and
This is the
hopefully
beginning.
October. And I think it's important to point out that guys like Tirso Ornelas and even Luis Campisano, who we mentioned, still have options remaining to AAA, and that may have or may not have factored into this. But as you'll hear throughout the show, one of our themes is going to be you do have to like force the other team's hand or your team's hand sometimes to get promoted by playing so exceptionally that they have no other choice. And then other times you don't. We'll talk about all of that and more on this exciting episode. We've got breaking news, everybody. We've got a call up. We've got our first call up segment of the season. We've got a tell me how you really feel with Paul Skeens that I'm excited to talk about with Pirates fans. We've got to stop the presses. We've got an injury report, and we've got some predictions, Nika. And even some extra innings at the end of the show. But without further ado, we got to talk about one of the biggest stories going on, and that's Mookie Betts and his health situation. Cue the music, Nika.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
This bullet just handed to me.
And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Well, we need a doctor for Mookie Betts.
Somebody give me a doctor.
We might need some specialists here. The headline this morning out of Yahoo Sports from Sean Leahy, Leahy, the contributing writer, Dodgers' Mookie Betts remains out with undiagnosed stomach illness. Quote, my body's just kind of eating itself, end quote. That's the headline. Mookie Betts, of course, missed both games in Japan last week against the Cubs, and he is now back. I'm going to read this article a little bit. It says, after missing the Los Angeles Dodgers 2 games in Japan against the Chicago Cubs last week, Mookie Betts' status for Thursday's home opener at Dodger Stadium is uncertain as he deals with a stomach illness. An exact diagnosis of what's affecting Betts, 32, remains unknown, and the Dodgers star has lost nearly 20 pounds since he began feeling ill days before the team left for Tokyo. It was looking like he was going to see action at shortstop on Sunday night against the Los Angeles Angels, but he began vomiting again hours before the game. Quote, I just want to play, Betts told reporters on Sunday. I'm tired of sitting, tired of just throwing up, tired of doing all this. I just really want to play. My body's kind of just eating itself. It's hard not to fuel it. It's hard to not fuel it. And so literally every time I fuel my body, I throw up. I don't know what to do, end quote. Nika, this sounds pretty bad.
It does. And the thing is, he's not going to get, most likely, a good diagnosis with this. Because no doctor is going to check his GI, whether he has some kind of a issue, parasite, or they don't test for this stuff.
Not until they, I guess, ask for it.
I guess. I feel like he has some kind of a parasite.
Yeah, it's strange that there's no diagnosis after so much time. You know, it does lead you to believe that there is something like a parasite or something like
some GI issues, for
sure.
And
I don't know.
Also, I want to point out that you are an athlete, you have access to a lot of doctors, and all these doctors tell you, we don't know. What does it say about the healthcare system as a whole?
It's pretty crazy. I mean, they make it sound like it's something unknown, like this rare new thing that's happened, and I don't know.
The best thing for him, do the fasting and do the 24-hour fast. Don't put anything in your stomach.
Yeah.
Let the body calm down and introduce bone broth. That's the best thing you can do. And then start introducing solid foods if you can take the bone broth. Maybe you won't be able to do it for a day or two. But I bet nobody talks about him about nutritional intake and stuff like that. It's all about pills.
Yeah, they did even mention that there's like some medication that is going to be like he's currently on new medication to help alleviate the problem. He'll continue to be evaluated during the week, and a decision will be made whether he's able to play in Thursday's home opener. Look, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he's not going to play Thursday because he's 20 pounds underweight for starters, and you don't just put that back on.
No, you spot on. That's just managing the symptoms, not the root cause of the problem.
Yeah, agreed. That it even says that like verbatim in the article. to help alleviate the problem, but it's not to take care of the problem. If you notice that medication in large part only manages symptoms. It's not designed to like, you don't take the pill and just feel better.
No medication.
These are
cured
for
anything.
like amoxicillin, penicillin, yes, but that's what our modern brain thinks of those things when we think of medicine, and yet modern medicine is not designed to cure anything. It's designed to manage things.
Exactly.
Well, I want to read one more part of this article, and it says, what's baffled Betts is that he's able to live a normal life while he deals with his illness, even working out without feeling any effects. But keeping food down is the issue and has led to his current weight loss, and it's made him, quote, scared to eat. While smoothies and IV treatments are fine, solid as food is what's giving him issues. And yeah, I think I just wanted to make that comment, like, from everything, we've learned on, our health journey together, and, more specifically my health journey. And if you don't know, like I was obese in my adult life, lost 70 to 80 pounds, had been higher even at some points, but made a lot of lifestyle changes. And one of the things that we learned about is just how powerful beef bone broth can be as a drink. You can like literally survive off of the nutrients of it.
Well, it's very healing.
Yes. Well, but also the power of fasting and how your body goes and kicks into these extra healing powers when you fast and are not eating and using your body to eat. And that's it, that's why I think you were recommending the whole don't eat anything for 24 hours. Let your body sort of go through this cleanse and let's see if it doesn't, start to root out the problem. And these are more ancient remedies, if you will, but that's, I think we've also gotten a lot far away from some of that stuff. And that's what we would recommend is, well, good luck, Mookie. I mean, like with whatever happens,
Yes.
It's just, I think relying on modern medicine to like solve these problems might be a mistake.
They don't help you solve the problem. They just manage your symptoms.
Correct. And I think the fact that the article literally says those words verbatim, and it's true.
Yeah.
He's not taking medicine that's curing him right now of this problem. They don't know what the problem is. He's taking
Exactly.
medicine to manage his symptoms and probably like, settle his stomach down or something. It's a big deal. That's why we're talking about it for a minute here, because it's a big deal. And I think it's obviously going to, play a big part in the Dodgers season, if you want to be honest about it, because this is like, he's not going to be playing on Thursday unless some miracle of God happens and he's like healed overnight, but you just don't put 20 pounds back on overnight. And I think his quote at the end here, like where they said, the article says Betts will not rush back. He wants to be at 100% when he returns to the field to give himself the best chance for a good start to the 2025 season and not hinder his team. I mean, they're already laying the groundwork for the fact that he's not going to play Thursday. And it's just, I don't know when we're going to see him debut this year. Well, we'll be following here on the Kanika Sports Show. And in the meantime, we just wish Mookie, honestly, good health, no matter if he's on our rival team or not. It doesn't sound like whatever is ailing him right now is anything to be joked or trifled with. So hopefully they find the answer soon, I guess. That would be most reassuring to know what is actually causing this to happen.
Well, next thing we might get a report, it's genetics, because they still don't know what it is.
Well, we'll see, everybody. Okay. While that is going on, there's been a lot of action on Major League rosters, aside from who's making the bench team that we talked about earlier in the intro a little bit. But we had some trades this weekend. We had some free agent signings this weekend, and we even had some extensions this weekend, everybody. It was quote unquote extension week. Now, just spoiler alert, it was not Vlad Jr. So if we do hear anything about Vlad Jr. getting extended, we will stop what we're doing and break news.
Stop
because
the presses.
that's a big story if Vlad Jr. gets an extension. And but I just want to warn everyone, we didn't get the extension we were looking for.
No, somebody else got an extension.
Somebody else did, on the Blue Jays, no less.
Wow, I think Vlad is pissed.
We'll get to that in a second, but I want to start with these trades, Nika.
All right.
The first trade came across, I'm going to talk about, I saw actually yesterday afternoon. It kind of came right out of nowhere. I was shocked because Ian Anderson, the pitcher for the Braves, got sent to the Los Angeles Angels, everybody. He is heading to Anaheim to Disneyland, and Atlanta receives Jose Suarez in return. I got to admit, I'm a little bit baffled by this trade, Nika. I'm looking at the numbers here. Jose Suarez is 27 years old, and Ian Anderson is 26 and 326 days. So nearly identical in age here, maybe by like 100 days or so, if you want to add it all up, 100, 110 days. Anyways, that's not important. What's important is the numbers. Like Ian Anderson has a career WAR of 3.7, has 22 wins, 13 losses, and an under 4 ERA in 52 games started. Not bad. 272.1 innings pitched, 262 strikeouts, 1.329 whip. Not the best. But anyways, when you compare and contrast with Jose Suarez, who's a little bit older, I remind you, he is 20 and 29 with a 5.47 career ERA in 61 games started in his career. He's started even more games. He has a 0.1 WAR. So like he has not been nearly as valuable to his teams as Ian Anderson has been to the Braves. And Ian Anderson, I want to remind everyone, was part of that World Series team with Atlanta in 2022, everybody. He's got a ring with them. I'm just a little bit miffed by all of this, and I'm kind of wondering how this happened. Now, if I'm looking at the stats, Ian Anderson hasn't pitched a lot over the last 2 years even, and he might have had some kind of like injury here. But still kind of surprising. I saw him pitch for Atlanta yesterday afternoon, and then minutes later, after he had come out, he was traded. I thought that was actually hilarious. And just a reminder of some of the funny trades you see in spring training. But nevertheless, I'm a little bit shocked by this move, Nika.
Interesting, though.
Yeah. Definitely interesting. And we'll wait and see. He was the 3rd overall pick by the Braves in the 2016 amateur draft. So, like I said, no statistical data the last 2 years. I thought he had pitched, but I guess I'm wrong, you know?
He must have been injured for a while.
Yeah, he must have had the old Tommy John, I would say, or something as serious. This one's pretty wild to me, this trade. And it was not the only one, because on Saturday, we got word that the Rockies were shipping Nolan Jones, the outfielder, to the Cleveland Guardians for utility player Tyler Freeman. And I did a double take on this one because I had a similar reaction, Nika. I know Nolan Jones had an injury-plagued season last year and saw a little bit of a drop-off in his stats, but he is 26, about to be 27, versus Tyler Freeman, who is a little bit younger, honestly, but like same amount of kind of experience here. 200 games for Tyler Freeman versus 213 games for Nolan Jones. Like they've both played about the same amount of games in the major leagues. They're kind of similar in age, and yet Nolan Jones has a 3.7 career WAR versus Tyler Freeman, who has a 0.3 career WAR. It's like one player has clearly been more valuable, and I've seen Nolan Jones play a lot as a Padres fan, and I know he had a down year last year, but boy, oh boy, this guy is pretty good, if I remember and have seen him play. Like I'm really shocked by these two trades, and I'm shocked by this one. And I think Cleveland went shopping at the bargain bin here and got a steal. And I wonder if other teams are like, oh, we could have had Nolan Jones, for that. Interesting. You know, it's just odd trade.
The combinations of trades that pop out sometimes are head scratchers, but people think outside the box.
It does feel sometimes like the Rockies and the Marlins and the Rays are all like feeder system teams for some of the other teams. Like lopsided trades never seem to work out in their favor, or like the 4 prospects that they get for Luis Arraez or whatever never turn out to be good. Like the White Sox got, well, we're going to talk about Drew Thorpe, but like he's got to call a doctor, and they got him for Dylan Cease last year. And it's like, it never has worked out for the White Sox with this.
But
So-
that's how prospects trade works, doesn't it?
It seems to go that way. And so like, I guess if you're a fan of a team that's getting prospects, the message and the overall takeaway here is that you should not be happy about this and be very cautious and not like happy and celebrating getting prospects, because you just never know.
Don't get too excited, basically. Is that what you're saying?
Basically. All right. Well, we had some free agent signings also. Kyle Gibson. I wrote this down. He signed a 1-year, $5.25 million deal with the Orioles. That's the guaranteed money. Now, this is where it gets kind of funny. He has $1.52 million in bonuses available, including $150,000 evenly split every time he hits a new milestone and starts. 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, and 24. So every time he hits another marker in those amount of games starts, he's going to get a $150,000 bonus check.
So
Think
get
about
some
that.
incentive.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like these incentivized deals. I think, we're seeing more and more of them as time goes on, and like interesting structures and weird arrangements. Even Jordan Montgomery has like a weird amount of games started clause that like kicked in, and that's why the Diamondbacks had to pay him this year. So anyways, this has been going on for a few years. That was the point. And Kyle Gibson is the latest to cash in on this structured bonus incentive deal, if you will. All right. Well, the Orioles weren't the only team busy on the free agent market side of things. We also saw the Atlanta Braves put a long-standing free agent to rest, and that was Alex Verdugo. He signs a 1-year, $1.5 million deal with the Atlanta Braves. No incentives were reported in this one. Verdugo, I looked him up. His stats just continue to go down year after year after year, and I'm not surprised, I guess, that it's taken this long for him to sign, but I think this might have to do a little bit with the Nacho Alvarez Jr. injury that we heard about earlier in spring training, in Atlanta just not feeling particularly comfortable with the depth at the position. Atlanta gets Alex Verdugo after a long free agent stint for him. And then the Yankees swung in this morning, and they make a signing. They pick up Ryan Yarbrough, everybody. He's known to us out west here from his time with the Dodgers, but Ryan Yarbrough is headed for the New York Yankees, everyone. And no surprise here, because both Garrett Cole, who is having Tommy John surgery, who already had Tommy John surgery, is on the 60-day IL. And now Luis Gil, the AL Rookie of the Year last year, is also on the 60-day IL with a lat injury. So the Yankees have had it all go to hell in a handbasket really quick here to start the year, with 2 of their top pitchers out for at least 60 days and more. Plus, Giancarlo Stanton has got elbows like a 15-year running back has knees. So he is just in a bad place injury-wise. And yeah, things have gotten off to a rough start for Aaron Boone and the New York Yankees this spring. But they have some hope.
They do. And Yarborough is a long reliever. Do you think they're going to try to stretch him out to be a starter?
Potentially, or they just, because they're moving Stroman now to the starting role, they felt like they maybe needed to have a new innings eater.
Okay. Well, he's definitely that.
Yes. And Stroman's probably the one that's relieved the most out of this, since, he's not going to have to go to the bullpen, and he probably has a chance to earn that bonus, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So,
All right.
okay. Well, that is what we got. And, by the way, we had some extensions to talk about.
Oh,
Alejandro Kirk, everybody, the catcher for the Blue Jays, he
Oh.
gets a 5-year, $58 million extension. So Eat your heart out, Vlad Jr. There's your
Just-
$50 million, bro. Well, not the extension that Blue Jays fans were hoping to read about. And the money probably isn't a factor when it comes to extending Vlad Jr. or not, even though it's kind of ironic that he gets a $58 million extension and Vlad Jr. and the Blue Jays were apparently $50 million apart. So, well, and we'll have to wait and see. Vlad Jr. is set up to have a huge season. We're going to talk about that later. But the other extension was to Tanner Bybee, everybody, the pitcher for the Cleveland Guardians. So they were not done inking over the weekend with trades and everything else going on. They also get Tanner Bybee extended. And this is a backloaded deal for $48 million and a 6-year option also for the team. I wrote down this was actually a historic deal for someone of his caliber.
Well, how so?
Well, basically, because of the amount of service time that he's had and the amount of money that he's getting guaranteed, it's never been that high for such a short amount of body of work, I guess, for such a small body of work. No one's ever gotten this much guaranteed money. So I guess it just speaks more and more to how much pitching has become a premium in this league.
Interesting.
All right. Well, as we mentioned throughout the show, there's a lot of roster forming and developments happening. And what do they call that? They take shape. The rosters take shape. That's what all the heads and talking heads on TV say. And, well, we have a call-up as a result, everybody. And it's our first of the year, our first time playing the Welcome to the Show intro.
Did you hear what I said? I mean, I'm going to the show.
So ya thought ya might like to go to the show.
What you need is a curveball, huh? In the show, everybody can hit a fastball.
Mama, let me go to the show.
Yeah, I was in the show. I was in the show for 21 days once. 21 greatest days of my life.
I've got to let it go
You don't know shit, all right? You want to make it to the show, you'll listen to me.
and just enjoy the show.
All right. Well, welcome to the show, Christian Campbell, everybody, the new second baseman for the Boston Red Sox. He is baseball's number 4 overall prospect, everybody, and he will be the new second baseman. He is a right-handed hitter and a right-handed fielder, so nothing really out of the normal in that regard. But I just kind of wanted to call out the fact that he did not have a really good spring training here. And, we saw and heard the aggravation of Kobe Mayo last week, who is not going to be breaking with the Orioles. And here we have another young player who was 8 for 48 in spring training, like really low batting average, 2 doubles and a homer, 10 walks, 18 strikeouts, and only 2 RBIs in 20 games for Christian Campbell. Yet he gets the call up for the Red Sox. I just wrote down, did he earn it here? One of the things I want to kind of mention, and I guess I don't mean to keep stirring the pot of Rafael Devers, but is Christian Campbell a better option than Alex Bregman at second base for the benefit of the Red Sox?
Well, they're already paying Bregman, so there's that.
I get it, but I just want to point out the fact that there was like this predetermined, ordained stature that Alex Bregman should be the Boston Red Sox third baseman because, quote, that's what's best for the Boston Red Sox. And yet we know from the free agent process that there was this versatility that Alex Bregman could play second base potentially for another team like the Astros if they wanted to use Isaac Paredes at third base and or, Cam Smith. Is that his name?
So let me ask you this. Bregman was asked to play second, right?
I don't
Before
know.
he signed.
I don't know if he was.
Oh, okay.
There was some assumption that he could, but like the point was there was also a push by media people like, oh, remember Ken Rosenthal? We played that clip here. Like, oh, I thought he would just play third automatically because he's a Gold Glover caliber. And my point is are the Red Sox though a better team with both Devers, and Bregman on the field and someone else as the DH? I'm just asking the question because it doesn't seem like this guy has, quote unquote, earned the call up to the show yet. And I'm not trying to be, like I said, I'm not trying to take a crap on his call up or anything like that. But, you're hitting less than 200 in spring training and you're getting called up to the big leagues. Like that seems like unearned
It's a little
in a way.
questionable for sure.
And you are creating a potential team drama here with Bregman and Devers at third base when Devers can't play second. Only Bregman could. And therefore, by saying, no, Bregman's playing third, you took that option off the table, and now you're promoting a kid that might not be, quote unquote, ready to be promoted yet. And it just makes me wonder if, like, the team would have been better off avoiding all the drama with Devers and just putting Bregman at second and letting this kid earn that and force their hand, like a Cam Smith is doing in Houston, for example. But if Christian Campbell had put up the numbers that Cam Smith had put up in spring training, then I could see the Red Sox being, you know what, Devers, we got to put this kid at second and put Bregman at third for the betterment of the team and make you our DH. But that didn't happen in that order, and I think that was a mistake by the Red Sox.
Do you think they are looking at Campbell's stats from a 2024 season when he was in the AAA?
Well, of course they are.
Okay, but then also they might be looking at the fact that he can play all different positions, second, third, shortstop, and all the outfield positions. But
they're not promoting him to be a utility player. They're promoting him to be the everyday second baseman right now.
I know, but
so
is it the
that's a
thought
different
behind?
role. What's that?
Might be the thought behind why they chose his contract.
I think this is, again, just like overhype. And I don't know. We didn't see Jackson Merrill come into Padres camp last year, by example, and just be anointed a new outfield job.
No.
Like he had to earn it, and he had never even played the position before, and he had to hit his way onto that team and earn it.
All true.
And we saw that happen in real time. And I just don't know if, and we're seeing it happen again potentially this year in real time with Cam Smith, who we talked about on the podcast last week, and what he's doing in Houston. And so I just feel like you have to, when you're this age and at this point in your career, you have to hit your way onto the team in spring training, and teams have to be open-minded about letting those players onto the roster and not holding them back.
I agree 100%.
It works both ways. But I just don't see him earning it here. And I think if he would have had Bregman in front of him, it would have been a benefit to him.
Always see
and
what
I
happens.
just think that was the three-dimensional chess that the Red Sox didn't play. The front office and the manager, and they did not make good decisions on this one, and all I know by name is Alex Cora. So I'll hold him responsible. But why not start spring training with Bregman at second, Devers at third, and have either Devers play poorly in the field and let him play his way out of third, or by contrast, you could have pushed Christian Campbell to play so good in spring training that you could have went to Devers and been like, hey, we have no other choice. This makes the team better.
Those are great options. I don't think they were asking your advice.
I don't think they handled this very well at all, if you don't notice. So, all right, well, that's all I got for this one, Nika. I'm going to move on.
Perfect.
I think I was just telling you how I really feel about Christian Campbell, but Paul Skeens told us how he really feels about Pittsburgh. Let's hear it, Nika.
They didn't even ask how I'm feeling.
You don't know how I feel!
You want answers!
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
Maybe you can tell him how I really feel.
I got something to say.
That's not any better. Say what you gotta say.
All right, I was teasing Paul Skeens in this segment, everybody, and boy, oh boy, we had the rookie of the year from the NL. He is a popular topic of discussion, everybody. I wanted to point out really quick follow-up from last week. We mentioned that the Paul Skeens rookie debut patch card had sold for $1.11 million at auction. And we learned later that day, after we were done and off the air, that Dick's Sporting Goods, everybody, bought that card for $1.11 million at auction. And they announced later that day that they will be proudly displaying this card on location in one of their stores in the Pittsburgh area. I would assume probably something near or close to the stadium.
I would imagine. It makes more sense.
I don't know the city of Pittsburgh very well, so I don't know which location it might potentially be at. So if I'm way off on that, I'm sorry, Pittsburgh. I didn't mean you, no offense. But I think this is actually a cool, interesting twist on this whole story, and that not one person is going to put this card in like their vault, never to be seen again for like 50 years. It's going to actually be something that we all could potentially go see in person and be able to see a little piece of history, right?
And take a picture with it.
Well, yeah. And especially if you're a Pittsburgh fan, I think that's a cool little thing. You know, you might even be able to like persuade Paul Skeens to come and have some pictures with it, or take a picture with Skeens with it.
Imagine if they promoted as such that Paul Skeens is going to be at Dick's Sporting Goods signing cards.
Well, as much as that fan interaction is important, there's one thing that Paul Skeens wants more than that, and I think that's for Pittsburgh to stop being remembered for a wild card game that they played in. Paul Skeens told us how he really feels, and I want to give credit here to Alex Stumpf, everybody. I love that last name. He tweeted out on Saturday, and this caught my attention, talked with Paul Skeens for a bit after his start Saturday and asked if he feels the expectations of being the face of the Pirates. The answer wasn't a quote yes or a quote no. It was a peek into what drives a 22-year-old with seemingly infinite potential. Well, here's what Paul Skeens told Alex Stumpf to warrant such an introduction. Quote, I think we owe something to the city. We owe a lot to the city. It's our job to go out and win for the city because this is all bigger than all of us. There's a reason why Kutch keeps coming back, and specifically to Pittsburgh. And that's Andrew McCutcheon, by the way. Quote, there's something about this city. We saw it last summer. We've seen it in the videos of the wild card game. I'm tired of watching them because it was a wild card series. The bar needs to be set pretty high. Not taking anything from those guys. The fact that that's a golden era of recent Pirates baseball, that needs to change. We owe it to the city. End quote. Paul Skeens, sounding off, everybody. And boy, oh boy, I would be very, very careful, Pirates, if you don't want to lose this guy. I don't say that as a chuckle, I just know how the mainstream media loves to push stars out of the small town markets, and Pittsburgh is about as small time market as it gets over the past recent baseball memory. You hear what he's saying in this quote. Like, we're literally known for a wild card playoff game. That's the peak of Pirates baseball. And like, you know, when it comes to winning a championship, a wild card game is far between a championship, right, Nika?
Oh, absolutely.
So I understand what he's saying here. And this is just a warning shot, I think, to Pirates ownership and brass. Like, there's more to this than me. I'm not going to be your, main attraction and just sit here and let you watch you not put a contender on the field while I'm here. And if you don't, I'm going to walk.
Yeah, this is a call for Pittsburgh to spend, basically.
It is. And it's also a rally cry for the fans in a sense, too, because it makes it easy to get behind him. Right?
Oh, definitely. Do you remember whether the stadiums are filled up in Pittsburgh games? Because I can kind of remember.
It is capable of it, and you did start to see, especially when he pitches. Okay. But look, here's another prediction here, folks. Everyone's talking about the Brewers and the Cubs, and as much as I love the Cubs still back home and root for the Padres here out west, I have some bad vibes for the Cubs this year and the Brewers, and that's because I think they're just missing the bigger story in that division, which is the rise of Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates. And also they're leaving out Ellie De La Cruz, who has just been on fire this spring, and I want to remind everyone that the Reds have had a change in management, and Terry Francona is headed to the Hall of Fame as a manager already. and was revitalized to come back and manage this Reds team. And he gets to manage a superstar in Ellie De La Cruz. And he's already got him. Like, I wrote down his spring training numbers: 18 for 44, 4 doubles, 4 home runs, 12 RBIs, 6 stolen bases, 10 walks. He did strike out 12 times, which is Ellie De La Cruz's MO that he's known for being bad, is like he strikes out a lot. But still, he had a 409 batting average. I'm not going to be mad at a guy for striking out 12 times when he's still hitting 400. You know, I'd rather have you up there hacking and trying than trying and looking for a walk, right? We don't want that. But he's got a 519 on base percentage, a 773 slugging, and a 1.291 spring training OPS. Like, crazy, phenomenal numbers, and totally up to the potential of what he's capable of. I mean, if I'm Cubs and Brewers fans, I'd be scared right now of the Reds and the Pirates this year. And I would not be surprised if the Reds and the Pirates are both finishing this season ahead of the Brewers and the Cubs both.
I wouldn't be surprised one bit. Do you think the Reds management and the situation that they are in right now reminds you a little bit of Texas Rangers when they got Bruce Bochy?
Wow. That's an interesting comparison.
Because they had plethora of young players.
Yes. I would say maybe. It depends on if they're able to get a Max Scherzer at the trade deadline to shore up their pitching staff. Not so much Pittsburgh, but Cincinnati, I don't know if they have the pitching.
I'm talking more Cincinnati with the management.
Yeah, I know you are. And Cincinnati needs that pitching. And no offense to Pittsburgh, they might need that managerial change in the future, but that's a topic for another time. Mm-hmm. The Reds, though, you do bring up a great point. You know, it's like you give a team a little bit. We've seen how important managing can be with the Padres alone. Like, it can make a huge difference. And Terry Francona is more old school than some of these newer managers. And I think that was part of the push out, you know. In Cleveland with him, it's like, oh, maybe my time in this game is over. And now all of a sudden we've seen a new shift back to sort of the middle. Like old school baseball, hit your way on. Let's not look for walks anymore. Like, stop guessing. Let's hit the ball where it's pitched. Like, we are seeing the balance start to return to the game a little bit. And anyways, I think we are going to see Terry Francona have success here versus, like, you know, Pat Murphy seems like an old school guy, but Craig Counsell's into the numbers and the nerdiness of it. And the Brewers lost Willie Adames, by the way.
They
did. You know, that's a big veteran shortstop. So we might be seeing some changes in the Central. We might not. It could be the Cubs and the Brewers at the end too. But I just feel like Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are set up to play spoiler this year, and the mainstream media is not giving them the credit that they deserve, which is all the more feather in their cap.
That's actually great.
It is great for them.
There's no spotlight on that.
I know. I think they're missing it. And the only thing that remains to be seen is how will they handle the pressure down the stretch when the spotlight eventually shifts over to them. And Skeens is ready. Ellie De La Cruz is ready. So I don't think they're going to – it's just, are they ready to step up and be leaders of their teams? That's what we'll have to wait and see. But both teams seem okay managed, you know. Pittsburgh, I think we don't know yet. But I forget his name, by the way, so forgive me. But Paul Skeens and his manager, when we saw that video of them last week when he announced him as the opening day starter, like, they seem to have a pretty good rapport. Mm-hmm. So everyone can act in front of the camera. I get it. But he seems to have respect for his manager, and that's what you want from your star. All right. Well, that was Tell Me How You Really Feel. And so, Nika, without further ado, I think it's time to stop the presses, everybody.
Stop the press. Listen, I'm sorry about what I said. I was being an idiot.
Excellent example of infield journalistic investigative technique.
Therefore, your heinous comment will be stricken from the record.
People love it when you lose. They love dirty laundry.
I just happen to notice that our presses aren't running, which strikes me as rather odd since we are, after all, a newspaper.
All right. Well, this clip caught my attention on, I believe it was Saturday. It was on MLB Network, and we had, we had Dan Plesac here talking about the Padres losing Yu Darvish to start the year with elbow inflammation. Nika, can you play this clip for me from Mr. Dan Plesac, former Brewers Cubs pitcher Dan Plesac, please?
Here's the thing about Darvish. I mentioned he's 38 years old, Dan. Last year, he only pitched 81 innings. He missed a good bit of time, but for personal reasons, had to leave the team. He had a 3.31 ERA, which is good. But then he went out in the postseason, and he looked fantastic. He had 2 excellent starts. So there was a real thought that, hey, you know what? Yu Darvish is going to be the old Yu Darvish again, and that's going to be a very good rotation. What about missing him now for a period of time?
It's going to be significant when you're trying to catch a team like the Dodgers. I think head and shoulders right now, the Dodgers are the best put-together roster there is in the sport. It puts a lot of pressure on Dylan Cease, Michael King, Nick Pivetta. That was a huge offseason signing now for them. Yeah. And they're going to have a little bit of competition. It looks like Randy Vasquez is going to nail down that 4th spot. It's probably going to be between Kyle Hunt and Steve Kolek going for those last couple of spots. Kolek last year pitched in Korea, pitched very well. They're hoping a lot of guys have gone over to that part of the world and they've come back and they pitch very well.
Okay, well, I have a number of things to say about this clip. Where should we start? I don't know what he means here by the old Yu Darvish again. You know, like the Yu Darvish that we saw in the playoffs last year against the Dodgers. I don't think anybody was expecting Yu Darvish to come out and do that for 30 starts this year. Do you? Like,
I don't know. Is he referencing the Yu Darvish from the 2017 when he was in the Cubs, or the earlier days when he was with the Padres?
There's so many shades of Yu Darvish here to go through in his life. Texas, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Padres.
Tell me who you are.
I mean, yeah, pick the Japanese career.
I mean, know.
There's so much to look at in this body of work here. And I think we all know he's not a spring chicken. Michael King and Dylan Cease are the number 1 and number 2 pitchers on this team, not Yu Darvish. So I'm having a hard time buying this fact even alone here that, like, you know, there was this idea that he was going to be the old Yu Darvish. Like, nobody was thinking that, man. Nobody was sitting here in Padre land talking during the offseason every day about, like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to see Yu Darvish pitch like the 2016 version of himself for 30 games. Like, no, nobody thought that. I don't get where you're getting this from, Dan. I got to call you out here a little bit. Like, and then I also find this Dodgers comparison hysterical when, like, they have pitchers going down to injury, like, seemingly more often than any other organization out there. And yet the Padres season might be derailed. Like, you never hear that when a Dodger pitcher goes down. What? Because they have a stockpiling 2 starting pitching staffs just in case? We already had the conversation on Friday from Ken Rosenthal about what happens with all these pitchers when the playoffs start, you know, and how ego is going to get in the way sometime. You can't have 12 starters on your team and have enough starts for them.
What does that hoarding of pitchers mean exactly?
Yeah, exactly. I know. We talked about that. It means that something is wrong with your arm conditioning and your mechanics for your pitchers that you're teaching.
Exactly.
That's what that tells me.
Let's not address that issue, you know, just put a Band-Aid by piling up a bunch of starting pitchers.
I guess it's just dumb luck, right, Nika?
Oh, yeah.
Totally. The double standard irks me a lot, you know, where, you know, and I got to be honest here. Like, you heard him talk about how, like, you know, it's going to be tough for them to keep up with the Dodgers because of this. And it's like, you know, they're still going to have to go out there. They're giving it to the Dodgers before they play games, you know. We just talked about Mookie Betts being out for a significant time. Ohtani's not pitching until May. Roki Sasaki's not ready to go 30 games this year.
Freeman is still
battling his ankle injury a little bit and other new injuries that happened right before he didn't play in Tokyo. Like, we talked about the age of this team in the offseason, and the only thing they have a lot of is veterans on their 40-man roster to come in and fill.
They have one of the oldest rosters in the whole league.
Not to mention, like, more deferred money than anybody in the history of baseball.
There's also
they have a $680 million check that they have to write after 10 years from now. No team has spent that much money 10 years in the future yet. Trust me.
Well, who knows what's going to happen in 10 years? We might not even exist on this planet.
Truer words have never been spoken, probably. All right. Well, I know one thing for sure. We're all going to be here on Thursday, most likely, and these players are not going to be playing. Nika, can you call a doctor, please? All right. Well, I got a quick follow-up from last week. Drew Thorpe, everybody. He is indeed going to be having Tommy John after getting that elbow imaging, and he's going to be out with a 13 to 15-month recovery. Just about the worst thing White Sox fans could have hoped for here. This was, of course, the trade piece for Dylan Cease, as I mentioned earlier. And, yeah, I'm sure a lot of White Sox fans wish they would have gotten a different player back, perhaps one that would be pitching. Nevertheless, yeah, no Drew Thorpe this year. No Drew Thorpe at the beginning of spring training next year, and no Drew Thorpe until probably after the All-Star break next year. Ouch, baby.
Well, I hope the Sox have better season than the last year.
Me too. And we are running tight on time, everybody. So I'm going to be flying through this injury report really quick. A lot of it is just maintenance, but that Drew Thorpe injury sucks because you just never like to see a young guy get Tommy John. And it's just the White Sox have had I think somebody said 6 pitchers go down with Tommy John this spring training. Tommy, can you hear me? And it's like, man, do you want to replace the Dodgers at the top of the list?
That's a lot.
Well, it's not a good thing to compete with the Dodgers with.
No.
So, yeah. Shane McClanahan, everybody, the Rays starting pitcher who is back, I think, from like a prolonged injury of his own. Don't quote me on this. You know, there's a Tommy John every other week, so I don't want to mislabel a Tommy John. But Shane McClanahan is dealing with shoulder nerve damage, and he's going to start the season on the IL. What's the manager's name down there? Cash? Yeah, he doesn't think that this is going to be serious, but, you know, I feel like he also didn't say it won't be serious either. So keep an eye on it if you're a Rays fan or if you're a baseball fan. And Ranger Suarez, the lefty on the Phillies, has back tightness, and he will start the season on the 15-day IL. I feel like he's had back tightness before, Nika. Am I wrong?
Yeah, probably not. It's one of those things it's hard to keep up with every single
Yeah, maybe
player.
you need to buy a better bed, dude. I don't know.
Something.
Well, either way, they obviously Drew Thorpe will be out for the season, but Shane and Ranger Suarez going to be out to start the season here. All right, on to the position players, everybody, because we got a lot of them, and some of this happened over the weekend. Gerard, or is it Harar? I think it's Gerard. Gerard Encarnacion, the Giants outfielder, he was diving for a ball and wound up fracturing his left hand. There's no timetable for his return, and I am told or informed that he will be in surgery tomorrow. So he will be going under the knife very quickly here, and there is some thought that there might be even more damage than just the broken bone in his hand. So tough loss for the Giants. Zach Geloff, for the Oakland, the former, Oakland fans. Zach Geloff for the Sacramento A's. He has that hamate bone issue, Nika. So he will also have to have hand surgery. He is expected to possibly be back by early May, everybody. So look for Zach Geloff to return in May. And Max Muncy, everybody, on the Athletics, not to be confused with the same Max Muncy on the Dodgers, has made the team as a result of this. So congratulations to Max Muncy. I guess we could have included him in our call-up section, but next time.
Next time, I guess.
All right. Vinny Pasquantino, everybody. The Pasquatch, one of our favorites. He pulled up limp with a hamstring the other day, and he told reporters he doesn't think it's serious, but that they're also going to do more testing the next day. I haven't heard any updates about this since Saturday when it happened, so I will stay tuned and keep you guys posted if it's going to be prolonged. But keep an eye on the Pasquatch, everybody. Also, Parker Meadows from the Detroit Tigers is going to start the season on the IL. And I kept this article open because I wanted to read from this. It looks like it will stretch into May as Tigers manager A.J. Hinch told reporters that the outfielder will need 4 weeks of rest after undergoing a nerve conduction test. Meadows has been sidelined by an issue with the musculocutaneous musculocutaneous nerve in his upper right arm, which has prevented him from throwing. This sounds like a really interesting, like, abnormal injury, huh?
Or just a fancy name for some strain.
Possibly, yeah. It says the problem has been bothering Meadows for the better part of the month, and the uncertain nature of nerve-related injuries had left the door open for a somewhat sudden recovery, since the nerve could technically, quote, wake up at any point.
So that sounds like they don't know what it is.
That sounds like rocket guest science over there, buddy. Yeah. They used Hinch's parlance, it says. Anyways, I'm kind of just highlighting this because it was a odd injury and wanting to wish Parker Meadows a speedy recovery as a result of that, because nothing to be trifled with. All right, moving on. Gunnar Henderson, everybody. Now, Gunnar has that intercostal strain, which I want to remind everybody is an injury to the muscles located between the ribs. Yikes, that sounds painful. He is going to start the season on the IL, the 15-day, I believe. I'm sorry, the 10-day. Gunnar gets the 10-day treatment. So hopefully he's not out longer than that. I don't want to see a big star, kind of coming into their own, be derailed like that. And I think everyone in baseball wishes that. Okay, Dalton Varsho for the Blue Jays is recovering from rotator cuff surgery in the offseason. And they hope to have him back before May, it says now. So Dalton Varsho, son of Gary Varsho, former Cubs player in the 80s, everybody. Dalton looking to be back before the month of May. We have Brooks Lee, everybody, who was a rookie for the Twins last year. He underachieved, of course, because you didn't hear about him at Rookie of the Year time. But he is the second baseman of the future, and he is not going to be there this year because he has back tightness, and he's going to start the season on the IL now. So get well soon, Brooks Lee, so you can start to earn your stature, your prospect stature. All right. Tario Estrada, everybody, is out 4 to 8 weeks for the Rockies with a broken wrist. He is over from the Giants this year, and he will have to wait to make his Purple Menace debut. And the Rockies will always be the Purple Menace to me because they just own the Padres, man. I don't know what it is, but they just own the Padres. Spencer Steer, everybody, on those aforementioned Reds, one of their former, I guess, young players. He's been bothered all season long, all spring training long, I should say, with a right shoulder injury. He cannot throw the baseball. This sounds very much like the nerve. Maybe he and Parker Meadows need to get together and go ask the doctor, like, do we have the same injury?
Maybe. Maybe his nerve's gonna wake up one day too.
Maybe it will. It's in a long nap, like Johnny Appleseed, huh?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, well, wake up, nerves. That's my message. And Spencer Steer will now start the season on the IL. And he's going to have to go through extended rehab now or what do they call that?
Simulated stuff?
Just he's going to have to rehab and get conditioned for the season. He hasn't been throwing or playing the field. He's
that's
been
a
hitting.
setback.
I brought him up because he wanted to be DH, and Terry Francona told him, sorry, dude, that's not what's best for our team. A little bit of tough love from the new manager. I like it. No, not persuading him into oh yeah, sure, you can DH. Why not? Yeah, good idea. No, you need to learn your position and get in shape.
There you go.
All right, so one last injury is Brandon Drury. Everybody. His injury wound up actually costing him a job. He got released by the White Sox. He has a broken thumb.
Like fully broken or just a little fracture?
Well, I don't know the extent of it, honestly.
Okay.
But I just know that he has a broken thumb. But he had 41 at-bats this spring training and put up 410 batting average and was just hitting everything in sight before this thumb injury happened. And I saw a lot of White Sox fans commenting on X, formerly known as Twitter, about why didn't he just get put on the injured list, everybody? And what's going on here if you're a White Sox fan? I'm kind of perplexed as well. I don't know. This is he was definitely going to miss a little bit of time at the beginning of the season, but if he is able to keep hitting the ball like this, someone's going to pick him up. and
yeah, I mean,
put him
Lucas
on the injury
Arise
list.
played with a broken thumb last whole
Well, he had
season.
torn
Okay.
ligament, not a broke fracture. But yeah,
Well,
I mean, he's gonna have to start the season on the IL, but still, like it's good as making a trade sometimes if you get a bat like that back.
somebody will pick him up.
All right. Well, that's the injury report for this episode. If you'll remember on Friday, I had said I hope there's not a lot of injuries before the season starts. So I don't think the players heard me too well, but I'll be wishing for a relatively injury-free final couple days here of spring training as we get wrapped up tomorrow. And then Wednesday is totally off. MLB Network is having a big all-day like powwow on their station for the beginning of the season. And Nika and I will be peeled to that so that we can find all of the funny messaging and all the funny predictions and basically anything that we can find to hold these establishment meatheads to task as they return to the air. I saw MLB Central is going to make its debut on Wednesday, so maybe we'll see Deep Dive D-Row back in there. I'm talking, of course, of Mark DeRosa. But either way, it'll be good to see the guys again. There are establishment meatheads, Nika, and we love them, even though we give them a lot of hard times on this podcast. It's all in good fun and to keep them honest and to make the game better.
It's entertainment.
Infotainment.
Sure.
All right, everybody. Well, speaking of MLB Network and speaking of Dan Plesac, I wasn't done taking him to task this weekend, everybody. We caught some predictions with Dan Plesac and Adnan Virk. I'll never get tired of saying that name, everybody. We caught some predictions of theirs over the weekend, and I guess I just wanted to use this opportunity to unveil a new predictions segment where we will find prognostications from the MLB establishment out there in the world, and we will discuss whether or not we think they're going to come true or not. Yeah, that'll be another segment at some point. Like, did it come true or not? We'll just keep building segments here, folks, until we run out of ideas. No, just kidding. First up, though, here's what they had to say about one of the spring training's most hottest hitters. And I'm sorry, they talked about 4 hitters that are having really hot spring trainings and whether or not they feel like they're going to continue onwards once the regular season starts. And I kind of want to talk about each one of these players as well with Nika afterwards. So we're going to do them one at a time. Here's what Dan Plesac had to say about Bo Bichette, everybody.
Who is a guy at a great spring training you think can have a good season?
Bo Bichette. I think if the Blue Jays are going to be relevant, they need that tandem of he and Vlad Jr. He's had a really good spring training. Last year, you could almost that was a forgotten year.
Yeah.
Battled a bevy of injuries last year. Be a free agent at the end of the year. And if the Blue Jays window is still open, it's going to have to stay open in 2025. If Bo hits, they're going to be in contention in the East. They've gotten some breaks with the injury to Garrett Cole with the Yankees. I think Bo Bichette bounces back and has a monster year.
Okay.
All right. And just to put his spring training into perspective a little bit, he went 19 for 51 with 3 doubles, 4 home runs, 9 RBIs, 11 runs, 4 walks, and a stolen base to boot. That's a 373 average, 411 on base, 667 slugging, and a 1.077 OPS. I watched this whole segment, by the way, and I didn't clip the entire thing, but not once did they mention the biggest reason why this is going to happen. If Bo Bichette stays healthy, it's because of Vlad Jr. We know Vlad Jr. is just like a man on a mission right now, and he's doing everything possible. Like, okay, you don't want to sign me for $500 million? I'm going to do everything I can to make myself worth $700 million. That's how Vlad Jr. is thinking right now. And, oh, by the way, the Blue Jays also added Anthony Santander, who, if you listen to this podcast, I said his name quite a bit last year on the podcast because he had a great switch hitting season for the Orioles. And look out. I think the Blue Jays, with everything going on, will be in contention in the East.
And also, Bo Bichette is playing for his contract. He's in the final year of his extended 3-year contract with Blue Jays. So
you bring up a great point. He's in the Vlad Jr.'s same position.
Exactly.
I think he just has more to prove this year because he was injured last year and he had his first downward season of his young career.
Sure.
So I think he has a lot to prove, and he's kind of playing like a man on a mission this spring, as I said, with those numbers. So,
well, the Blue Jays might be the dark horse in this whole situation.
I'll give Plesac this one. I give this a high probability.
Yeah.
I just feel like they didn't mention the biggest reason why is because he's protected in his lineup. You know, he's got a guy on a mission in Vlad Jr. and he's got Anthony Santander there now. So if he stays healthy, Bo Bichette should have a big season. All right. Well, I'm going to move on to the next player, Nika, and that was Cubs center fielder Pete Crow Armstrong.
Before you get into PCA, we should wish him happy birthday. He's going to have a birthday tomorrow, and we're not on the air. So happy birthday to PCA.
That's right, Paul McCartney. You sing it, buddy. We love that happy birthday song here on the Kanika Sports Show, everybody. But happy birthday, PCA. And I hope for your birthday this year that you get continued success at the plate, young man, because you have had a hot spring. 16 for 32 at the plate, a 500 batting average, 4 doubles, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 9 runs scored, 8 strikeouts, and I did point out no walks. Let's listen to what Dan Plesac had to say about PCA.
Pete Crow Armstrong of the Cubs. This guy had a really good spring training, and there's an element to the game that we really haven't seen, power. And if he starts to hit for power, he might be the best defensive center fielder in all of baseball.
Nice.
Covers all kinds of ground. He throws well enough from the outfield, can steal bases, the kind of guy that can score from first on a ball hit down the line. 3 home runs in the Cactus League. Look at that batting average of 500. Has a chance to be a very, and I mean a very special player, a guy that has power, the guy that can hit for some average, and he can run too. Terrific skill set.
I had a chance to interview him along with Mark DeRosa there in Arizona. And to your point with the defense, I said, what would you rather have? Game-winning home run robbery. Every time, home run robbery. Takes a lot of pride in that defense.
Yeah, and did you believe him?
I think so. He said it
Okay.
with such confidence. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Okay, I'm buying it too then.
So the biggest thing that's missing here is they didn't talk about how big of a second half he had last year in their analysis. I mean, I do agree with him, though, that if the power comes for Pete Crow Armstrong, and we've seen some hints at it with the 3 home runs and the 4 doubles, but we've also seen Pete Crow Armstrong is capable of running the inside the park home run. And he's got that speed. The one thing I don't disagree with anything Dan said here, but the one thing I really wish is that the Cubs would be a little bit more aggressive with Pete Crow Armstrong, especially moving him up in the batting order. I don't know how you can have a weapon like this on your team and somebody hitting like this in spring training and be like, I want you to be our leadoff hitter. Like, don't you want that disruption immediately on the bases? And like, don't you want a guy that's capable of hitting an inside the park home run at any moment, like up at the beginning of the game? Like, I don't know. I think having Ian Happ lead off, I like Ian Happ, but I just think it's time for the Cubs to try some new things, you know? And
it goes to management.
It does. But if you look at the team, like Ian Happ's batting in the same place Dave Ross had him in. Like he was leading off and he's still leading off. And I get that he's a switch hitter and that he gets on base a high clip, but like he's not Pete Crow Armstrong. He's not capable of disrupting the game. I feel like the Cubs need to change their mindset a little bit.
Do you think that comes with analytics? This position that you don't want to change?
I say that in a way, yes, but I guess I just look at it as like, what good does it do to have Pete Crow Armstrong come up and have like slow guys on base in front of him? And I know that he's gonna bat 3 out of 4 times every night with other people batting ahead of him anyway, because the 7, 8, and 9 hitters have to hit before 1. I'm just saying, you know, he's such a weapon. And
it's underused.
It feels like it's being underutilized, being buried in the middle of the order. So I hope the Cubs like start to think outside the box, especially if they struggle, like I think they might with the Reds and Pirates coming on. So
that
we'll
might
see.
change. You know, when the season starts, Counsell might switch things around, see how everybody fits.
He might. So we will see. All right. Well, Adnan Verk was up next with his two players, and he started off with Giants third baseman Matt Chapman. Let's listen to what he had to say.
My choice is here, Matt Chapman. Obviously plays a great Gold Glove defense, but his offense so far this spring sacked 421 average, 6 home runs, a 1395 OPS in 15 games. Having seen him in Toronto, he's a very streaky player. I mean, a couple of years ago in April, he was the MVP candidate. Then he slowed down, signed to the Giants. Everyone knows he can pick. He's a Gold Glove defender. But this kind of offense, this would be a great sign for the Giants.
If he hits and Willie Adames hits at shortstop, all of a sudden you look at that Giants team entirely differently. I'm with you.
Yeah.
A couple of seasons going into May, this guy looked like the second coming of Mike Schmidt. And then he kind of fell on hard times. The second half of the year, Giants took a flyer on him last year. If he hits and Adames hits, one thing with Adames, he'll post up every day.
Yes.
Guy's an everyday player.
Adames signs a 7-year, $182 million contract. He had 3,100 a year ago in terms of home runs and RBI. They also have Jung Ho Lee back. That's good news for them.
I respect the fact that Matt Chapman had a monster spring here. I wrote down his numbers: 421 batting average, 16 for 38 with 6 home runs, everybody. 14 RBIs, a stolen base, 6 walks. I guess it all boils down to the fact, do you think Willie Adames is really going to make him alone that much better? It seems to be like they're kind of using that a lot in their argument here. Because I got to be honest, Matt Chapman's career numbers don't show anything what they're talking about. It seems more like wishful thinking on their part more than anything.
Shocker.
Well, I know, shocker, but I just want to be mindful here. Like, batting averages from 2021 to 2024. And these are not short seasons. 151 games, 155 games, 140 games, 154 games. It's not like he was injured. His batting average, 210, 229, 240, and 247. So I guess you can argue it's trending upward, but I mean,
but it's in the middle.
He's not ever hit over 250 in his career, except for 2018. I mean, and that's so far long ago now. I mean, are we really going to go back 8 years on a guy?
Well, this is their big spending that the Giants did. So
They did. They signed him to a big extension. And I could buy into this more if he was 26 or 27, but he's not. He's 31. He's going
to be 32.
Exactly.
This year.
He's not a young spring chicken. And I find the older they get, the harder they are to change. And the more their career numbers are going to be what you get at the end of the year. So I don't think his ceiling's very high at the plate. And I just think, yeah, he's had a great spring. I'm not going to argue against that.
Is that going to translate to this season?
Is it going to just automatically carry over for 162 more games? And yeah, we'll see. Last player is one we're all familiar with here on the Kanika Sports Show, and that is Cody Bellinger, everybody. He is 29 and will be 30 later on this summer. Let's hear Adnan Verk and Dan Plesac talking about Cody Bellinger.
The other guy I'm looking for, Cody Bellinger. Had a great spring. First time in the Yankee pinstripes. He hit 400, 8 extra base hits, an 1124 OPS in 18 games. And if you like the analytics, Zach, his exit velo is back to where it was with the Dodgers. He hit the ball real hard.
I think with the things that you'll probably notice early on with Cody Bellinger, I thought for a while he had some injuries. He had that issue with his shoulder that I think hurt him for a couple of seasons. He had to cheat to get to certain pitches, made him vulnerable to the off-speed pitch. When he cuts his swing down, particularly with 2 strikes, he's so big, he's so strong. I think he's going to have a big year for the Yankees. A lot of pressure on him coming into this offseason, right? They acquire him in a trade. All of a sudden, Juan Soto leaves. Now you're going to have to be that guy that takes over there. There was pressure on him getting to Tampa in spring training. Had a great grapefruit league.
Well, do you think that Cody Bellinger can replace Juan Soto, Nika? I just kind of couldn't help but hear Dan Plesac say that at the end, like they're counting on him to replace Juan. It's like, what? I don't think.
I'm sorry. There's only one Soto, and he does have a brother. If anybody replaces Juan Soto, it might be his brother.
I just think Cody Bellinger is having a good spring training, and I expect him to have a good season because he's on a new team. And we saw this happen when he went from the Dodgers to the Cubs. Everything is like being put on a premium with him right now. Like he's probably showing up on time and like working hard ethic, and I'm not saying that he's not a hard worker, but what I'm saying is like are we going to see the same spring training next year out of Cody Bellinger when he shows up feeling comfortable with his new Yankee teammates instead of like being the new kid on the block and like, oh, I'm playing next to Aaron Judge, one of the greatest players of his generation now. And like, I gotta be on my best behavior, kind of quote unquote, right? Like working hard in practice and showing everyone that I want to win. And like, I'm not saying that these things aren't true. I'm just saying like, will it be the same urgency mentality next year if he's in a more comfortable spot? I think we saw that with the Cubs.
Well, he does have a player option for after.
Yeah, we know that from the
season.
contract he signed because
Right.
he took his option, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the Cubs traded after he invoked it.
Yeah. Well, I guess we will see. The Yankees are in this funky spot because they need pitching. They do have players.
You said it,
It's
Nika.
tough.
You said it. It's just a really tough situation right now, and they have a lot of injuries that have been unexpected to big name players. I mean, Luis Gil was Rookie of the Year last year in the American League. Garrett Cole is a 2-time Cy Young award-winning pitcher, and was looked at to be their ace, their workhorse. So you now lose both of those arms at the top. That alone is heartbreaking. And then you don't have Giancarlo Stanton on the offensive side of things, and he might not have elbows left. It's like the equivalent of not having knees for a running back in the NFL.
Yeah. Yankees are in a tough spot. That's
They
for
are.
sure.
And we'll have to wait and see how they I really think the Blue Jays and the Red Sox are poised to leapfrog over the Yankees and the Orioles this year. And I just think the Orioles haven't done enough with free agency and shoring up their pitching staff and using their draft capital, as we talked about with Kobe Mayo, to plug in those pieces to make them like a super team almost, like I'm not saying anyone's going to rival the Dodgers, but you have weaknesses on your team, Baltimore, and you have a plethora of players at other positions that you should use to fix your current team so you can compete in a division that is winnable, but that they're not going to win because other teams did just a little bit more, like the Red Sox and the Blue Jays. So
it's a tough situation. It's a tough division, and it's tough for other teams to look at themselves and think like, "Oh, we did enough." There's always more to be improved.
Indeed. But I know one thing. I know Cody Bellinger is going to go out there and have a great April, and everyone's going to be like, "Juan, who?" And don't get your hopes up out there, Yankee fans. You did lose a generational hitter in Juan Soto, so Cody Bellinger is not going to be a replacement for that. Over the
I don't
next
think he
15
ever claimed
years.
to be a replacement for Soto. It's
No,
just the
and
mainstream
I don't think
media
that
wants to
I know.
wield it to existence.
And I'm being kind of sarcastic because the MLB network guys should be smarter than to make that comparison. Like, no, you can't on one hand say, oh, Juan Soto is the greatest hitter of his generation over and over and over again on your network, and then say like, oh yeah, the Yankees are relying on Cody Bellinger to come in and replace him. What?
It got us talking, so this is their...
Hey, I'll give Cody Bellinger one thing over Juan Soto. He hit 47 home runs in a season, and Juan Soto has only hit 42, I believe, as his most. So he's got a few home runs to go to catch Cody Bellinger's single season record. Everybody.
Okay, well, we see how it all goes. But Cody Bellinger looks good in black and white.
He looks good, and he that what they said is true. His swing looks really sharp and short right now to the ball. When he's punching the ball. When he's hitting the ball well, he looks like he's just straight punching the ball. Like, it's the clearest or it's one of the prettiest swings, first of all, in baseball when it's working well. And it looks really like a textbook definition of chopping at the baseball, like, and why you should approach it like chopping wood. You should always be swinging on like down at the ball. And if you watch Bellinger's swing, you'll understand what I mean. All right. Well, let's have a little bit of extra innings, everybody.
Extra, read all about it.
A little bit of extra bonus baseball. Thank you, Bugs Bunny. Well, the first story we're going to talk about is from my past, actually. We're going to go a blast from the past because I had even forgotten that it is the 20th anniversary, everybody, of MVP Baseball 2005, which was made by EA Sports. And was one of the greatest baseball simulator baseball games of its generation and era. And it is, even to this day, apparently, still viewed with high praise in the baseball video game community. I do remember one thing about this game in particular is that you could hack the rosters and you were able to download a file on the internet. Somehow you were able to get it onto your Xbox and you were able to tell EA Sports, the game, when it was playing, that you wanted to override the current roster file and install your own. And when you did this, there was a lot of options available online, but one of them was the all-time greats team for every team. So, like, for example, the Cubs had Sammy Sosa, Ernie Banks, Billy Williams, Mark Grace, Andre Dawson, Ryan Sandberg, like all in the same batting lineup, like all of their greatest players ever. And Fergie Jenkins was pitching and Greg Maddux was pitching and all the, Kerry Wood, Mark Pryor, all these guys were on one pitching staff. And it was fun. And I had a lot of time playing against my friends, just in the same room. And we still did that before online gaming when we had our own split screen on the same TV to share, Nika. We would play this game, and it was a lot of fun to play with those all-time teams, and we would have little methods of choosing random teams to play against each other. So good memories with MVP Baseball 2005. Here is John Dowd, everybody. He is one of the original creators of MVP 2005, and he's talking with Robert Flores on MLB Network about why MVP Baseball 2005 resonates so strongly even to this day.
Why do you think this game resonates still the way it does?
Like two or three reasons. It was a really good blend of simulation and arcade. We worked on that for years. This was like the 7th iteration of the game I was on. And we finally kind of like worked out all the kinks. So I think that's a big part of it. I think the second big reason is the fact that it was the last one. And we kind of ended on a high note due to licensing reasons. We couldn't make MLB products after 2005. And it kind of like lingered in the memory. It was like it was the James Dean or the Kurt Cobain of baseball video games, I guess.
All right. Well, this was a nice little surprise for me to see. Like I said, I have an affinity for this game. But one of the things that he brought up that I thought was really interesting was the simulation part. Like it really did feel good, and fastballs and curveballs, sliders, like it was all manageable. Like if anything felt like hit the ball where it's pitched and like all the fundamentals of baseball in a video game. It was kind of like all in this simulation. You could do all that. And the second thing is this whole like licensing issue. It's something that we've seen in sports and sports cards. We see it in video games now. Here is they lost the license. Here they were making the best product on the market in their field, along with Madden and the other NBA Live video games, which no longer exist either. And yet when licensing, and it's all about money at the end of the day. And it doesn't matter how good of a game you make. It's about how much money you're willing to pay me for my license. And it's just too bad they didn't just poach the entire team to go and work for them afterwards, right? And continue this kind of simulator, because MLB The Show, it does well, but it is not ever, I feel like, reached the stature of MVP Baseball 2005.
Okay.
All right. Well, and we got one more little fun soundbite that I happened to find over the weekend. As I said, the Padres. Now, I got to give you guys a little bit of crap, Don and Bud, because you've been doing every other game so far since you've come back Thursday, and you left me without baseball on Friday night and Sunday. Like, come on, man. Come on, man.
Maybe it's not up to them.
I know. It's not. I'm just giving them a hard time. I guess they have to ease into this whole thing like their own spring training, right? I'm giving you guys some guff. Look, I love hearing them back, and I especially love this, what I caught from, this was actually Bob Scanlon on the ground. He's the sideline reporter during spring training with Don Orsillo and Mark Grant, Mud, as he's known. The Padres color commentators, everybody. So here's Bob Scanlon with Dylan Cease after his start the other day. And boy, oh boy, was this funny. Have a listen.
We know about you, Dylan. You're a Renaissance guy. You're a poet. you're an artist, you're a beekeeper. And now the boys in the booth want to know if you are killing bears in the off season, living in a cabin with no electricity and no running water.
No,
what the beer do you have going this year?
I don't kill the bears, I foster the bears. And then once they're at the right age, I let them go into the wild. And I don't live off the bears, I live off the berries.
All right. Good clip, Nika. Does this make you want to hang out with Dylan Cease more or less?
Oh, I want to hang out with Dylan Cease.
Oh, yeah?
Totally. I want to see the Bears.
You want to see the Bears?
The Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears. Oh, that's funny. Especially since he has that Chicago White Sox connection, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of White Sox fans are Bears fans. Maybe that's where Dylan Cease first got to be such a bear lover.
Oh, maybe. And then the beekeeping and the honey, it's all.
And don't
great.
forget the cigarettes, Nika. No offense, Dylan. We did catch that hot camera from the playoffs or after the clinching. If you have never seen it, it was great. Dylan Cease was smoking a cigarette on the infield at Dodger Stadium after the Padres clinched their playoff berth last year. This was after that famous triple play that they turned to beat the Dodgers. Hopefully he quits smoking in the offseason and goes out there and wins the Cy Young this year. That's what I think I'm hoping for. Anyways, good stuff here from the San Diego Padres television crew here. Mark Grant, Don Orsillo, and of course, Bob Scanlon on the ground. Bob, you're so tall, man.
Dylan Cease, the Renaissance man, huh?
You know what's funny out of that? Don Orsillo is the odd man out here because he's the only one of those four that I mentioned that it was not a major league pitcher. Pretty funny. You keep good company, though, over there in the Padres TV land. So
that's true.
And that's why they're the best in the business, everybody. No, if you haven't heard them, you should check out a broadcast or two and see what we mean. Huge fans over here at the Kanika Sports Show. All right, Nika, are you ready to get off the air?
Yes, please.
All right, let's wrap it up for this Monday episode. Please stay tuned as we will be rapidly approaching opening day. We will be back here on Friday to cover all of the opening day festivities and preview all of the rest of this weekend's upcoming matchups. The start of the 2025 season is upon us, everybody. Stay tuned. If you have any comments or if you would like to get a hold of us here, you can email us at kanikasports@gmail.com, or you can email us, or you can just subscribe and leave some comments on any of our podcasts. We will see them on YouTube or TikTok or anywhere this is posted, Spotify. It's up to you. You choose where to listen. We will see it all, and we will promise to get back to you. Other than that, get ready for baseball, everybody. It's starting, and we will be back here on Friday to cover it all for you here on the Kanika Sports Show. For now, this is Kenny giving you a KSS goodbye.